Hello and welcome to Tiny Destining with Emma. Today is it's Saturday, February 11th. It's my friend Monica's birthday. She doesn't want to celebrate. She said that we were gonna transfer the feast to a different date, which is fair enough. She has to practice today. Monica's my knitting friend who also does church music with me, who's never been on this channel because she's busy, but I have decided that she's gonna have to be on it to talk about this project that she's doing from the same book that this sweater comes from. So I'm gonna start with what I'm wearing. This is the Rose Hip sweater by Anna Johanna from Strands of Joy. And the reason I'm gonna make Monica come on the channel is so that she can talk about, she's knitting this sweater right now, which is called Thistle. And she is knitting it in a thinner weight yarn than the pattern calls for, so she had to modify the pattern. And she really thought a lot about it, and she did gauge swatches, and it's really like interesting to kind of hear her talk about that. So I think I'm gonna force her to join me at some point when she's done with the sweater to talk about it. She just finished. I think she's finishing the body right now, which is obviously the kind of biggest thing here. Let me just show you both of these sweaters in the book. So this is, like I said, this is Strands of Joy by Anna Johanna. I don't know how she pronounces it. It's published by Lina, one of Lina's, bigger, beautiful collections. This is not even the first one I'm going to show you, only one I'm going to show you today. Where is it? Thistle 112. So this is Thistle. This is like a larger version of that. So it's a all over color work, steeked piece, drop shoulder. As you can see, you can sort of see the drop shoulders there if you're looking hard enough. And let's see if there's any other pictures. It says, Thistle's a boxy cardigan with color work all over. It's worked in the round and both the front and the armholes are cut open once it's finished. Here's the schematic there. So it's just like it's like a shawl color cardigan kind of. There it is on the model. So yeah, she's knitting this in Jameson & Smith 2-ply jumper weight off cones, which is really thin. So we've had a lot of interesting conversations about how much that yarn blooms from cones. It's designed for too-cool fingering, which is also a pretty thin yarn, but it's not as thin as the Jameson & Smith, even in the ball form. So yeah, anyway, this is the sweater that I'm wearing. It's called Rose Hip. And you can see here that it's very low contrast. This is knitted in spin cycle yarns. So the contrasting color is dyed in the wool. And then the main color is spin cycle wilder. I knitted it in not dyed in the wool or color changing yarn at all. And I kind of like this, there's so many details in the flower here. That I just think it would get totally lost in something like this. Like you really can't see all those details here because it's really hard on the eyes. So I really like this much more high contrast version. So I knitted this. The main body color is just Juniper Moon Patagonia, which is linked. I have decided that instead of editing, I can put things in the show notes as well, but I think I'm gonna also start doing the cards. I don't know what side, it's usually mirrored, so it's probably this side. So I'll try to put the click things that you can just click, because I think that makes it a lot easier for people to it's way more accessible. You can just be pause and then click on it, and then you take and right to the link. And then you can just come back to the video and go back to the link later so that you don't forget what it was, whatever you want to do. But anyway, this is Juniper Moon Patagonia. I used probably 2 skeins, maybe 3. I had 3, but I don't think I used the 3rd skein. I had a whole saga with this yarn because I tried to knit another sweater. The gauge wasn't tight enough and I ended up ripping it out, but then I washed it and some of it got tangled and my friend knit and untangled it for me. I don't even know how much was left. I don't even know where the rest is. Anyway, the contrast color here is John Arbon Yarnadelic Sport Weight. You can get that at the Woolly Thistle, again, up there. So I'm also just gonna show this one more time. I spun some John Arbon Yarnadelic top. This is the colorway Harmonium, and this was the first yarn I ever made that actually kind of looks like commercial yarn almost. There's still a couple of thick and thin spots, but like it's basically similar to what you would get in, well, it's 2-ply and this isn't, but yeah, I really felt like this was a big turning point for me, was this skein. So you can get Yarnadelic in top and spin it yourself. You can get Yarnadelic sport weight. You can get that at the Woolly Thistle here. You can get Yarnadelic in worsted weight now too from John Arbon. I don't think they sell that commercially yet. So, I mean, commercially, yes, you can get it from them, but I don't think they wholesale it. That's the word I'm looking for. So John Arbon has a variety of yarns. John Arbon Textiles has a mill in England that was started by a man named John Arbon, and he just sold it to some of his former employees, and I think he still works there. But it's called John Arbon Textiles, and they're amazing. They source almost everything from England or as locally as possible. So they really use British wool, and they try not to have too many miles on the wool to get to where they are. And it's like, they're amazing. They have a YouTube channel, so check them out. It'd be really funny if I keep pointing up here and the cards are actually over here. That probably will happen. So wherever it is, check out John Arbon on YouTube. They're great and very entertaining. So yeah, you can get, anyway, they wholesale some of their yarns. They wholesale Devonia, Exmoor sock. I think they're now wholesaling Appledore, or at least the DK version of Appledore, which is like a kind of crunchier, more British wool. They wholesale, people are probably screaming at me. The other things, obviously Yarnadelic. I don't know if they wholesale anything else, because they have like knit by numbers, which is like this range of 100 and some colors. It's like series of colors, like 6 different pinks that all kind of go together. They're like different shades and 6 different grains. It's amazing. And then they have like Harvest Hues is one of my favorites that they do. And I've gotten the top and the yarn Harvest Hues, and I really love that. Yeah, they've got amazing yarns. They've got, some just like kind of local Exmoor just like wool that's naturally colored that I've also, had before, that I've gotten for, I used it for a hap with some other yarn from John Arbon. They also spin yarn for a lot of other smaller companies in England. So they spin for Daughter of a Shepherd. At least they spin the Heritage. They spin the worsted spuns. They're a worsted mill. They also spin Marie Wallen's British breeds. So that's kind of amazing. I really like them. This is not a sponsored post. I just really like John Arbon Textiles. They can sponsor me if they want to. But I think that they are fabulous and you should support them. And especially if you're a spinner, the wool tops are really inexpensive and they're so beautifully combed and heathered, and they have like all these different shades in them. It's incredible. So I have, I will be showing you later, a Devonia top that I did spin. That's so stunning. So excited about that. So today, yeah, I've got this. I've just done a plug for Strands of Joy and also John Arbon, and I haven't even gotten to the other content yet. So again, you can get this anywhere you get your line of publications. If I've got a card up there, it'll link you to the Woolly Thistle, which is the best store ever. So you should get your stuff there. Cool. So let's see. The first thing I'm going to show you is, I guess we'll do whips. I don't have any FOs this week. So let's start with, oh, actually, no, sorry. Let's start with my socks. These are finally released. I had to just edit a few more iterations of the pattern. Like Jordan would do all the things that I asked her, and then I'd be like, oh shoot, I forgot this thing and I forget this thing. And we are both busy people, so I had to kind of track her down to do those, and my own like issues, not Jordan's issues. We're just both busy, and we were like passing like ships in the night this week. So these are my Jane Bennet socks. They are finally out in the wild. Again, check out the link there if you would like to purchase the pattern and support me. Thank you so much. I will be publishing tons and tons and tons and tons and tons of sock patterns based on Jane Austen characters. I have already designed and knitted 11, so we'll see, you know, how far that gets me, and I'll probably design a bunch more as I release those. And I love designing socks. So one thing I'd love to say about this is that I learned how to design socks just by basically looking in stitch dictionaries and just seeing like, what could I put on a sock? And if you're thinking of like designing something and you don't really know where to start and you like to knit socks, socks are a really good place to start, because socks basically just have a set of numbers that you need to have. And, you know, they're not copyrighted. So like you've probably, if you're a sock knitter and you'd like to start designing socks, just you'll notice that there's just like sets of numbers that people use for their heel turns, for their, you know, heel flaps, if you want to make a heel flap, or for afterthought heels, for the number of stitches in the leg, for your gussets. There's no like copyrighted sock numbers. So, you know, take a sock that you like, that fits you really well, and maybe the same yarn, and like knit, you know, cast on that same number of stitches and try out stitch patterns and see what you like and see if you can come up with something, and then you can publish that sock. I just think, you know, start, you know, even if you like my socks, start with those, see what kind of patterns that inspires in you. Start modifying patterns, you know, modify. I always think, I've heard Andrea Mowry say before, you know, she gets questions that are like, is it okay to modify your patterns? Does that offend you? And she's like, why would that offend me? Same thing, like, please, why would that? Oh my gosh, just, I don't even. Knitting is knitting. People should inspire each other. This isn't a zero-sum game. So please take my socks, modify them, design your own. Take these as a starting point to designing your own. I mean, go for it. The world is your oyster. Some people ask me, you know, who test knit for me, you know, can I modify these in this way? I always say yes, because I'm not the one who's going to be wearing those socks. You are. And your modifications might inspire somebody else to modify the socks when they're knitting them. So this colorway is actually named for Jane Bennet. This colorway is from At Haynes House, and it's called Who Could Blame Poor Jane? And I'm not showing this on a blocker. I'm so sorry. This is what the lace pattern looks like if it's stretched across your foot. So when I design these socks based on women from Jane Austen, I do it based on what I think that character would actually knit. So this is a really annoying lace pattern to memorize because it's not that intuitive. I did memorize it because it's not a long lace pattern. It's only like 8 stitches by 8 stitches. So there's only 4 lace rounds. So I did memorize it, and I knitted 4 pairs of these socks. So I certainly memorized it by the end of the first single sock that I knitted, but it definitely isn't intuitive in this way. So it requires some patience. It's all over lace on the leg. So definitely some diligence there, some commitment to being a lace knitter and a sock knitter. Sometimes rounds or needles end with a yarn over, which is annoying. So, you know, you kind of have to have some ingenuity there. Don't end on a lace round in case it ends with a yarn over, you know, end on a knit round, because every other round is just plain knit. I say all that stuff in the pattern, don't worry. There's also a DK version in every pattern. So I knitted, if you watch my couple of previous episodes, you'll have seen my Rama Vendre, which is like a worsted weight, high twist kind of hiking sock wool material. So I knitted a pair in Rama Vendre for the DK sample. And you can get Rama Vendre from the Woolly Thistle. So that's great. They'll probably also be offering this pattern along with the yarn. So if you want to support them, you can also get the pattern there. And that also supports me because I designed the pattern. So yeah, that's a plug for my Jane socks. My next socks, which will be coming out sometime in probably March, as I said to people, are the Kitty Bennet socks. This is the first one. It has all these markers because I'm working on the second one when I'm transferring the markers to this. So just finished the heel and started the gusset of this the other day. Need to kind of work my way. Yeah, sorry, because you can see there's like a lace panel that goes down the side, and it does go down the opposite sides. So you can wear them with the lace on the inside or the lace on the outside, or you can knit the lace on the same side and just say YOLO. YOLO is something that people don't really say anymore, but that stands for you only live once. And it's something that people used to say about 10 years ago all the time. So it's got a little, almost looks like a feather lace pattern. Very simple. This one is really intuitive and easy to memorize because Kitty is lazy. Jane Bennet is like patient and diligent and quiet and hardworking, and Kitty's just kind of like, she's not as brash as Lydia, but Kitty's somebody who probably doesn't want to like work too hard to get a pretty sock, but this is still a pretty sock. And this is the Kitty Bennet colorway from at Haynes House called I Don't Cough for My Own Amusement, which is something that Kitty says to her mom when her mom is like, please stop coughing. It's have some pity on my poor nerves. And Kitty's like, I don't cough for my own amusement, Mom. I'm sick, which I think is hilarious. So that's my sock update for now. I have like come off the accelerator a little bit with my socks because last year I knitted 45 pairs of socks. Not all of them were pattern socks. Most of them were pattern socks, but I knitted some like plain socks in like Felici self-striping, which I really like. And I'm gonna knit some of my own socks in self-striping, like the self-striping Felici yarn from Knit Picks, because I think it's a nice commercial option. And I like holding a double with like a plain white yarn and making it DK socks like that. So yeah, you'll probably see some of those. So I have one more sample of my March, I call them like, I say them month to month because last year I knitted, it was like every month I had a new pattern that I knitted like a bunch of. So the next one is going to be Catherine Morland, and I knitted 3 samples of that. 2 of them are like super Christmassy, and one of them I gave to my coworker for Christmas, and then, but I still photographed it, so it'll still be in the pattern. And that was the DK version in like scrappy Christmas colors. It was really pretty. But I'm gonna knit one more pair, actually a men's size, because these are a textured sock and not a lace sock. I'm knitting those as in a men's sample because I have a blue skein of Jagger Spun Moose and Falls sock yarn from Jagger Spun mill, but it's from the Woolly Thistle. I got it in their sock bag last year. And I just watched the Shopcast where Caitlin showed that she knitted a sweater in that, held double, and she only used 1 skein for a baby. And I almost did that because I just had one of my friends, Tyler, he and his wife just had a little boy 2 days ago named Joey, and he's super cute. And I have at least one other friend who's having a baby boy this year. Yeah, I think then I have another friend who's having a girl. Yeah, a lot of boys. A lot of boys my friends had like last year. Anyway, but I've decided I'm actually going to use that yarn for socks. And I'm going to make a men's sample so that people understand that even though they're named after women, they can knit them for anyone. Men, women, gender neutral people, anybody, in any yarn. So that's my sock update. Maybe I'm trying to like, structure these in a little bit more of a coherent way. So maybe I'll do sock updates first because that's like something that's kind of relevant, and then we'll get to the whips, and then we'll do the hand spun stuff, and maybe in between whips and hand spun we'll try to do hand spun whip. That might be good. I don't know. I always say things and I do them like twice and then I'm like I forget or I move on or whatever, because I don't really like to, I like to be habitual about things, but if a habit stops working for me, I just stop. I'm not married to it. I'm drinking Earl Grey this morning in a Keep Calm and Carry On mug. You can probably tell I'm a little hoarse. I've been singing a ton of church music lately. I've been subbing every weekend, and right now I'm singing with my friend Monica in DC on Thursdays and Sundays, and sometimes on weeknights because of like weekday mass or something. So that's a lot of singing, and I'm just like, I'm getting back into it after my sabbatical of 3 years. So my voice is a little bit, being pressed on right now, and it doesn't have the muscle that it used to have. That's the metaphor that I like to use. So I'm trying to do some vocal rest today. To be out all day on Sunday means that sometimes I need to like take my foot off the gas a little bit on Saturdays. So it's beautiful today. I think I'm gonna just try and go for like a nature walk, a Maryland hike. I have a dyeing project that I want to get to that I will explain at the end or closer to the end. And then I'm gonna hang out with someone tonight, but yeah, I'm trying to have some vocal rest so that I can be on tomorrow. Sunday is actually usually less hardcore than Thursday, because Thursday at the rehearsal you sing for 2.5 hours pretty much nonstop, but Sunday you rehearse whatever's for the morning and then you during the service. I mean, the whole shebang is also about 2.5 hours. You had an hour rehearsal and then an hour and a half mass, but there's a lot of time where you don't have to sing during mass because something else is going on. And tomorrow is Polyphony. So Polyphony, for those of you who don't know, this channel delves into music history a lot, or other things, but music history specifically because that's my field. I have 2 degrees in music history, basically. And I like polyphony. Polyphony is music from, polyphony is a very loose term that means anything like that's like multiple voices stacked on top of each other, which could be instruments, actual voices, whatever. But when someone says polyphony in the context of church music, they usually mean music from the Renaissance that was written in a style of music that, you know what, I'm gonna link some polyphony. I'm gonna put a Palestrina mass right there so you can check it out if you want to listen to polyphony, to see what I mean. But like, instead of like music chords all sounding like everyone's singing the same thing, the same words at the same time, and like you're stacking it in chords, polyphony, Renaissance polyphony usually means like the line starts with one voice and then another voice comes in later with the same kind of motif at the beginning, which means it's called imitation. It's imitative polyphony. And then like another voice will come in and they kind of go like horizontally, they don't move vertically. And there's all these like really interesting ways you can study the rules that people had imposed for themselves and that like based on other composers, and it's very interesting. So I'm linking Palestrina because Palestrina is so famous like for his style of counterpoint that like all these people in like the 17th and 18th centuries codified his style into all these rules, because there are certain things that he always does and he never breaks the rules, or very, very rarely broke, I guess, because he's been dead for 500 years, or 400 years. Anyway, it's very beautiful. It's really calming to listen to. But anyway, tomorrow is Polyphony. We're doing an Italian mass setting of somebody named Porta, who is not a composer that I know very well, but he lived at the same time as Palestrina, so similar style. And then we're doing a Thomas Morley anthem, which is, Thomas Morley was also writing around the same time, a little bit later in the 1600s, but he was English, but he studied in Italy with, kind of around the same time as like Monteverdi and Heinrich Schütz and Giovanni Gabrieli and all these, not necessarily with them, but like in the same kind of like vein. They all went to Venice to study at San Marco's Basilica, then they went home to wherever they were from. And then so Morley's compositional style is very influenced by his time in Venice. Anyway, that's a big digression. Let's talk about my long road sweater. So I've been working on this long road hoodies, which is the piece on the cover of Contrast, except this is the pullover version and I'm knitting the, I think I'm gonna knit the hoodie version. So yeah, last week I went and looked at how much yarn I have left and there's a lot. So I think I can make the hood. So this is what the hoodie looks like. It's very long. I'm not gonna knit pockets because that's just gonna take more yarn. So the way that I'm knitting this, again, if you'd like to purchase this book, Contrasts, it's gonna be so funny if it's actually up here, but I think it's up here, Contrasts at the Woolly Thistle, or anywhere you want to get your line of publications. But if you click that link, that's where it's gonna take you, the Woolly Thistle. So I found some more. I found a bunch of the yarn, which is Brooklyn Tweed Shelter and Button Jar. If you've been following me for a while, you definitely know about this because I talk about it all the time. And this is, there's a lot going on here because I started a sleeve. So it's done up to this point in the body. So I used like 4 or 5 skeins to knit this far into the body. It's knitted back and forth because it's a cardigan. You could steek it, which would definitely not be the worst thing because then you're always knitting on top of knits and purling on top of purls, which for some people is really helpful. For me, I'm actually trying to get away from that because I actually want my purls to be more consistent with my knits. Excuse me. So, I started talking about how I was doing church music and then I forgot to say I have to drink a lot of liquids. That's why I'm constantly drinking tea, and I have a water bottle here too. Because on Thursday I went to rehearsal and I had not had enough water on Thursday, and that caused me some problems. So I'm trying to be better. Anyway, so I decided to start a sleeve. So I'm gonna knit the 2 sleeves, and those are knitted in the round. You could knit them back and forth. That wouldn't be a problem, but I'm knitting them in the round because it's just easier. And I have one skein from a different dye lot that I am gonna start using on the sleeves and just alternating with the skein from the regular dye lot, so I get rid of it. Don't have to worry about it in the body or the hood or the button band or anything. So this has got a short row shaped sleeve cap, which was not too hard to follow. You kind of incorporate the smaller cables in as you go. You've got the main big antler type, well, it's more of a crisscrossy antler type cable, and then you've got the braids here on either side that you incorporate gradually while you're working on the short row at the shaping with short rows at the beginning. So yeah, it's not bad. I think it'll be great. I still have this on needles. I probably should put it on barber cords so it makes it easier to try it on, but I will at some point. I have a huge long piece of barber cord that my friend Nitin got. He just like got the silicone that barber cord people use. I can ask him where he got it if you would like to purchase a large roll of it, where you can just get barber cords at the Woolly Thistle to make it easier. But anyway, he gave me this long roll, so I cut it in pieces, and I just need to cut a length for this, like a body sized length, so I can have my body stitches on that, so it just makes it easier to try the sleeves on. And yeah, it's now growing down. It was only growing kind of in this way, the shaping the caps. That took a while. That was like a full evening of knitting, so a couple of hours probably. So now I'm kind of cruising on this sleeve. I haven't worked on it in a few days. I tend to like work on things for like a full evening and then put them away for a few days and then come back. So maybe we'll work on that today. I've got a long Saturday ahead of me of hopefully at least some laziness. So that'll be fun. But I've been I'm kind of excited to do the sleeve because I think it's gonna grow pretty fast, and we'll have it done with, and then we'll do the other one and see how much yarn's left. And depending on how much yarn is left, I'll probably do like another skein on the body and then see how far that gets me, to then measure like, okay, how many more body skeins do I need, and do I think I have enough for the hood? All right. So yeah, I think we're just gonna keep knitting on that cardigan, and we're gonna see where I get with the number of skeins. I can always get more skeins. They won't be the same dye lot, but I can alternate or something. Like if I wanted to make the cardigan longer with the hood, I could just alternate skeins of of a new dye lot in the body or something. So we'll see what kind of happens with that. But yeah, I'm really enjoying that process. I'm kind of not pushing myself on it, but I am, because I want to enjoy it. I don't want to like resent it, think it's too hard. Wool and spun yarn is a little harder on the hands just generally, so working through it slowly. And I am working on another cardigan. Again, I haven't worked on this in a while, but I've decided to like show it here just to be like, I have to start doing this. This is the what's it called? I just made it like last year in Wensleydale. It's the Visiting Cardigan by Stella Ackroyd, which is in line 11. It's also just on Ravelry, so I will just throw the Ravelry pattern up there. It's just a very plain textured knits and pearls cardigan / pullover, whichever one you want to do. There's two options. The pullover is a nice v-neck, and I made it in Wensleydale Erin last year for myself, and I decided to make one for Jordan in this yarn that was given by a viewer named Pam, who was very nice and sent me a big box of yarn. You can send me boxes of yarn if you're trying to get rid of it, but please ask me first and let me know what it is. Or you can donate it. If you want, you can send it to me and I will donate it, or I will find good homes for it. I have a lot of knitting friends who would be happy to take yarn off your hands. But yeah, okay. So yeah, I'm just kind of showing this to give myself a little bit of like accountability, let's say that, to like actually work on this a little bit this week. Because it's one of those things that's pretty vanilla. It's really just plain textured stuff. So I kind of have to, I don't need I don't need to think very hard about it. I can bring it with me places. It's not very big, so I can definitely bring it with me places. The row is long. I mean, it's like a 200 stitch row, so that's maybe a bit of an issue for that. Like, and it's not in the round, so you kind of have to finish the row if you're really putting it down or something. So I usually take my Maddie cardigan around that I'm working on, which you probably have seen if you're not new to my channel. I've been working on that in the B-shaped boosh, but I haven't really done any work on it this week, so I'm not showing it. So hopefully in a couple weeks, maybe the body will be done and I'll model it or something. It is a cardigan, so I'm steeking it. This is also steeked. I steeked this. I needle felt my steeks to secure them, if you're wondering. This sweater also doesn't have enough buttons on it. I'm thinking about putting snaps in between each button, excuse me, so that it stays shut more easily. I also picked up too many stitches around the ribbing, so there's a little bit of excess button band up here and also at the bottom. But I don't really care. I think it's a nice sweater. I don't need my things to be perfect. I also think, like, you know, if I'm working on cardigans and I want to eventually, you know, perfect the art of the cardigan, it's going to take a few times not making it perfect to kind of get there. And so I see it as a, you know, it's a learning experience when it's not perfect. It's a journey. Okay. So now we're going to go into handspun. So I do have a handspun whip. It's a complete handspun whip. I think this is the first time I've ever like done a real full on handspun experience here. So the handspun is, this is, I sniffed it because it smells really good. This is a marled yarn that I made out of 1 ply of Border Leicester, New Zealand Border Leicester in the light brown, which I got at Rhinebeck in a big, like, I think I got like 8 ounces of it or something at Rhinebeck. And then the white is Charlet, which is a French breed that I got just from, I think I got it from Laughing Lamb Fibers, so I can link their shop. I got 8 ounces of that in white, and I just spun bobbins of each one and plied them together. And I initially intended to make a shawl with this, with like a bunch of other brightly colored yarns that I spun that weren't natural colored. But then I was like, no, I don't want to deal with brioche knitting right now. This is the other skein I'm using. So this is a skein of yarn that is 1 ply of black and white Jacob, and then 1 ply of Blueface Leicester that I roving that from Feederbrook Farms, which is actually in Towson, up just north of here. I am actually pointing north. That's north, which is kind of funny. Like if I point that way, from where I'm literally sitting, that way north. So that's where Feederbrook Farms is. But I got this at Rhinebeck as well. The Rainbow BFL from Feederbrook. The black and white Jacob you can get from, what are they called? Blue Moon Alpacas on Etsy. So again, link up there if you're looking for that black and white Jacob. I just got a pound of it so I can make more. So basically I'm making, let me show you what I'm making, and then I'll go into the whole challenge idiotic thing that I'm doing. This is the Metamorphic Sweater by Andrea Mowry. If you've seen this sweater and say that's inside out, yeah, it is inside out. You knit it inside out. You knit the knit side and then you wear it purl side out. Has a big old collar here, nice deep collar. It's this is going to be pretty fitted. So I have to modify a lot of handspun patterns because I don't quite get down to a fingering weight, or I didn't, especially when I first started spinning. I was getting more of a DK weight. Now I can kind of make the sport fingering weight happen with 2 plies much more easily because I'm drafting more thin. But so I usually knit like 1 size down or something in the pattern. So I'm knitting the first size of the Metamorphic Sweater, but it's gonna fit me as though it were the 2nd size. So it's gonna be a pretty fitted sweater, as you can see here, but this is gonna grow because it's not a super tight knit. So what happens is that you knit it and then you turn it inside out and you see, so you can see here, it's, you know, it's reverse stockinette and it has this slipped stitch that you're purling on the other side that ends up being these knitted columns. And there's 4, there's 1 on each sleeve in the middle and there's 1 in front, 1 in back. Andrea Maurer uses Spin Cycle for the color changes, and I'm just using a color changing yarn that I spun. Again, this is it was like a rainbow and I just spun it straight down and applied it with this black and white Jacob to kind of give it a murkier flavor. So this is what it will look like. It will obviously be blocked. I think it will look really different. I mean, I washed my skeins, but you know, and it's a circular yoke. pullover. Andrea's is pretty cropped. Mine will not be as cropped probably. I'm thinking I might just knit the body to the end of this skein and see how long that is. I was gonna like try and separate some of it for the sleeves, and so, but I was like, I don't have enough. So what am I gonna do? So I decided, my friend Sarah gave me the black and white Jacob, it was like 2 ounces of it or something, and I just spun it all in one bobbin, and then I applied it with the feeder brook. And so I just decided to buy a pound of that. It's not very expensive, so that I can try and make another skein that complements this one enough to not look too crazy. So I got a skein of the black and white Jacob so I can apply with that, and then I will enjoy using that for many other projects, I'm sure. And then I actually have some mixed BFL in this. I think this rainbow roving was dyed on mixed BFL. I have a bunch of mixed BFL that I got for a sweater spin, and I have way more than I need for a sweater now that I'm drafting at a thinner rate. So thinner rate. I'm drafting thinner singles now. So I will not be using an entire 24 ounce bump of fiber for a sweater. So I think I will I'm gonna try and tear off a piece of that's like 2 ounces, and then I'm gonna dye it. And it's gonna be hard to dye in individual rainbow sections, and I'm gonna have to water it down because this is a pretty light hand with the dye application, I think, compared to what I usually do. So I think I'm gonna use tie-dye bottles to get it really precise, super low water level in the pan. And I'm gonna like color the first section pink, and then like a reddish pink, and then like a yellowish, and then maybe a greenish and whatever, because the stuff in here is all the warm colors and then the green. So I don't really need the purple and the blue, which I had at the beginning of this. You can kind of see it went from orangish to greenish, it kind of skipped yellow to purplish. There is more yellow inside here and purplish, and now we're into a pink. So if I start at pink on the sleeves, that should somewhat go. I mean, it's a pretty variegated yarn, and I don't think it will matter that much. So, you know, if you've watched my channel for a while, you know that I like a random challenge like this. So I am excited to see what comes of this little dye challenge, spinning challenge I'm gonna give myself. I mean, I spun all this yarn. I didn't dye any of it. So that will be the only variable I'm now putting in. I did like go to the Feeder Brook website to see if they had any more of this color, and they do not. So I could just like wait until the next big fiber festival. Like I could probably get some of the same color in May at Maryland Sheeping Wool or something. But I was like, you know what? We're just gonna try this and see what happens. So I've been enjoying this, and one thing I'm doing is people have started asking me more recently, how long does it take you to knit a sweater? And I don't know, because every sweater is different, obviously, but also I don't work on one sweater at a time. I work on multiple sweaters at a time. So I have no idea how many hours, because people always want to know how many hours. So I've decided to actually use a stopwatch when I work on this, and I work on it for pretty long stretches at a time to see how many hours I work on it. And I think this is about 5 hours of work so far. So I'm guessing this is like a 15 to 20 hour sweater. We're gonna find out. Yeah. So anyway, I've been enjoying working on it as just kind of like something new this week. I feel like if you work on projects that take a long time, like the Long Road hoodie, that's a long project. I needed something that was like new and exciting, and I really am trying to knit with more hand spun. Like I would like to have hand spun on the needles at all times if possible. So anyway, sorry, I keep having to stop this. I'm cooking a piece of sourdough starter. I don't know if anyone here is a sourdough person. Probably some people are, because a lot of people watch these. So I have a sourdough starter. Her name is Francine. And she pretty much hibernates in the summer. I bring her out of the fridge like once every 2-3 weeks, once a month, to feed her. And then she goes back in the fridge because I don't really use her. And then in the winter, I haven't really baked a lot of sourdough, but me and Jordan's bathroom is pretty warm. So I probably could rise the dough in there, because you do rise it in an airtight container. So if it's like in the bathroom, it's the airtight lid's on. It's a okay place to rise. But anyway, when I feed my sourdough starter, I try to feed it once a day. It's really cold in my kitchen, so it usually It is bubbly by like nighttime if I feed it in the morning, but it's still pretty bubbly in the morning. Like I think it probably reaches its peak like somewhere at like midnight or 2 a.m. So I'm not going to get up at midnight, 2 a.m. and feed it, on a 18-hour schedule instead of a 12-hour schedule. So I just feed it every 24 hours. And I usually in the morning, I feed it and I cook the discard in a frying pan. So I have a nonstick frying pan, so I don't need oil, but I always put a little bit of olive oil in because it tastes good. So I heat up some olive oil and I put my sourdough discard in the frying pan. And you have to like spread it out with a spatula because it doesn't like to expand. But I do that, and then I just like let it cook until it gets really dry. So you have to like cook it on a low heat for a long time. So I put it in, spread it out, and then I sprinkle salt on top, and usually I use like an Italian spice seasoning blend, like oregano, basil, a little bit of roasted red pepper, some thyme, roasted red pepper, not roasted red pepper flakes. And I sprinkle salt in that on the top. It cooks on the bottom, and then I flip it and cooks for 10-15 minutes on each side. Sometimes I go to the even more smaller flame burner. I have an AccuSimmer on the back of my stove, so I sometimes use that. But that doesn't, I don't know, it needs a little bit of a higher heat to actually like dry out properly. I don't know. But anyway, it tastes really good. If it's like a fresh sourdough starter, it doesn't taste, people are like, doesn't that taste sour? It's like, no, it tastes like, a little bit, but it tastes really good. It's just like, it's like a good breakfast. It's, sourdough is really good for digestion. It's whatever, it's just flour and water and the yeast that's created by a sourdough starter. So usually I have a smoothie and a giant sourdough cracker pancake thing for breakfast. You can also put stuff on it. Like if you wanted to put like, or you could make like cinnamon sugar one. It would be like sweet. You put jam on it. I don't know. I just eat it. Sometimes I put pesto on it if it's summer and I'm making pesto. That's a huge digression. Let's go back to the spinning. It wasn't that long, like a 3-minute digression. So for my spinning, I always start with like knitting with handspun. If I'm knitting with handspun, then we get to the like handspun that has been finished this week, and then we'll go to current bobbins. So I think I showed this Devonia skein last week. Not sure if it was plied. This is a skein of, I certainly didn't show it washed. This is a skein of John Arbon Devonia. So again, John Arbon, you can find John Arbon up there somewhere if you haven't already clicked on it. This is the top. Obviously it's dyed top, combed top in the colorway Moonflower from Devonia. You can get this in DK or fingering weight yarn, or you can get the top. It's really inexpensive. I was trying to say that earlier and I like missed the point there because I was talking about how all their wool is local. One of the things that comes out of that wool being local is that the dyed top is not very expensive. So it's like, $6.50 pounds. So that's a little bit more than dollars, for 100 grams, which is pretty good. That's like what a lot of people would pay for undyed top here. So I ordered 14 tops, so 1.4 kilograms of top from them back in November or something. And including international shipping, the total was like under $100 USD. Like it was around 100 USD for 1.4 kilograms of yarn and a wool top and international shipping. That's pretty good. So like I don't order from them all the time. I think I'm gonna become a mill member because you get 10% off, but also it's just like a nice thing to be a mill member, So support them. Anyway, I love John Arbon's wool, their top, their yarn. I'm a huge fan, so I'm a big supporter. This is about, as I said last time, it was harder to draft at first, but I kind of got used to it. So I started drafting thinner, and I think my first bobbin was thicker than my second one, but not by too much. There was a little left over on the second bobbin, but not very much. I always practiced chain plying with it, but there was so little, it didn't even make a mini skein. So like that's a good sign. I could tell you the grist if I had it in front of me, but it's like, this is about a sport weight. It's like around 300 yards. It's a little under 100 grams because I had that left over on that other bobbin. But so it's kind of a sporty weight. It's very drapey. There's like Wensleydale, there's Blueface Luster. There's Exmoor Blueface, Exmoor Blueface is the cross between an Exmoor horn and a Blueface Luster. So here it is with the Yarnadelic top. Oh, the heathering is just really nice. Like you'll notice when you get the top, or if you go to the webpage and you look at the pictures of the top, it's like really, really heathered, different colors. Like you would never believe that this is what it turns into. But the mill turns it into this if they mill it, and it also turns into this if you spin it by hand. I mean, if you like tore it apart so much that it was like in the individual like colorways within the comb top, but it is combed, so it's probably hard to do that. But you could like, I guess, get like a variegated, more variant yarn, but I don't know. I've never tried that. I don't want to. I want it to look beautiful and heathered like this. So that's my John Arbin spin. And then this is, so last week you saw this on bobbins. So this was my 3-ply from Nest Fiber, from the February yarn or top of the month, whatever. This is it's a Polworth top, roving, I guess it was roving. This Nest Fiber it says it's 4 ounces, but it's almost always 120 grams. At least the last two have been 120. I've weighed them. So I decided to make a 3-ply with this, and I broke each piece and it broke it into 3 and by weight, and then I did a fractal spin. So one end to end, 2 pieces, each end to each end, and then the third one 4 pieces. And I made a 3-ply, and I am so pleased with this 3-ply. It's super bouncy. First of all, that's because it's Polworth, but also because it's 3-ply. So the stretch on this, I mean, it shrunk, like the length of the the yardage shrunk because when I washed it, because it bounced back in. So it just means the spring is intense, and you can tell because the Devonia didn't do that, and my Nitty Naughty is 2 yards, so the loops should be the same length when they're finished drying, or when they go into the bath. Let's say when they finish drying, they won't be the same length because yarn is going to behave differently after it's washed, after it's finished, that you're spinning. So the plies, the content, how twisted it is, etc. All that's going to affect the finished yarn. So this is a lot. This had a lot more of a spring than the Devonia did. And that makes sense because this is a springier wool and the Devonia is more of a long wool, drapey. So yeah, this is really, I didn't know how it would come out. It's kind of like Valentine's-y red pinks. There's a little bit of sage green. There's a few thick and thin spots, but for the most part, it's pretty consistent. The singles were pretty small. I was just so pleased with it. And I'm going to make a pair of socks, one of my own patterns for sure, because I only knit my own patterns right now because I have to knit as many samples as I can. And I am super pleased with this. So this came out again before I finished it. It was about 300 yards. So it's probably not quite that, but it is like a pretty bouncy sport weight, maybe between sport and a DK. And I liked this so much that I decided to make another 3-ply. Also, I used my e-spinner, my electric eel wheel, to make this, just because I can draft thinner on that. So if I want to practice drafting, I usually use that. I spun this one on my Matchless, Thelma. The e-spinner's name is Louise, if you're new. I know, that's really funny. That's why I named them that. So I spun this on Thelma and I plied it on Louise, the e-spinner. Thelma's been just upstairs for the last week because I've been doing these 3-plies on Louise, and I started another 3-ply spin. So this is just a combo of a bunch of yarns. Again, I tried to draft singles that my friend Sarah would call skinny singles, super thin. So this is, you can see there's like a navy, which I thought was black and white Jacob that Sarah dyed, but I think it's mixed BFL. The more I spin it, the more I think it's too soft to be Jacob. This royal blue, I think that's also a piece of mixed BFL that I dyed. Hard to tell. The medium's kind of sky blue, that's Cheviot. I dyed that from a white bump. And then this kind of bright aqua, I got it at Frederick Fiberfest from a mill, and it was like they called it like random mill ends. I don't know what fiber it is, but this is what it looks like. So if you can just ID this from looking at it, I am amazed. It's super bouncy. I mean, it kind of feels like Rambouillet or something, but it's like, I don't know. this is harder to spin. I can draft it really thin, but it's not like combed as well as most topper roving. It's also, some of it sometimes comes off on my hands. It's a little bit, you know, it's just a little, whatever, not dye's not set totally properly, but I don't know where it's from. But I like it. It's a pretty color. I don't love spinning it, but I'm kind of enjoying how it goes into these bobbins. And it's also like, you know, it's a challenge. So I like a challenge, and so I don't mind. So this is fractal. I'm working on the last bobbin right now, which is just all 4 just right in a row. So I had the 4 colors, divided them all up into 3 sections each. So like the dark blue, weighed it. If it was, let's say it was 33 grams, I divided it 11 grams, 11 grams, and 11 grams. Did that with all 4 of the pieces of roving. Then I did not weigh the like strips, but I stripped it into none. I didn't strip the first one. That's the one that's being spun now. Then I stripped it in each piece into 2. Then I stripped each piece into 4. And then I drafted it all in the same order. So darkest to lightest, you know, 1, 2, 3, 4 times. This was just 1, 2 times. And then the last piece, just piece. So for those of you who know what a fractal spin is, that made perfect sense. And then for those of you who have never heard of this, you're probably like, what are you talking about? But I decided to do a 3-ply again. Just, I think it's interesting. It's fun. I wanted to see if like how basically combo spin fractal would end up, where I could more control the placement of the colors, because this is dyed top all in one piece. So the colors do change, but you can't, you know, the colors are just in there. So I wanted to choose the 4 colors that went in, see what would happen, see what I could kind of achieve with that. So I am finishing up the last bobbin. This is the last piece. And then I'm just going to rest for a couple days. I've started letting my bobbins rest for longer, and it has helped a lot with just like the relaxing the pigtail twisties a little bit, especially when I'm drafting so, as Sarah would say, skinty, thin. So yeah, we'll see how that ends up. And I've decided that I'm gonna knit socks with this one, but with this one, I am gonna design a little pair of fingerless mitts that are kind of like in a, we'll see what weight this is, probably be like a sport to DK weight. So a few weeks ago, I was showing like, here's all the random pieces, you know, skeins of yarn that I have in my stash that I would like to use this year. And I should have brought them, but I think they're back downstairs. I showed 2 skeins, 50-gram skeins of blacker Gotland DK that I've had from the Woolly Thistle. I think I got them from the Woolly Thistle like a couple of years ago, honestly, maybe 3 years ago. And I have not used them, and I want to. So I've decided to knit the fingerless mitts in my hand spun, and then knit them also in that blacker Gotland blend as a color blocking little color blocked pair of mitts. And we'll see what else I can find. Maybe like little stripes, maybe scrappy, that'd be fun. Just as like a way to kind of, you know, I like the idea of having a pattern that's like really easy to kind of use whatever yarn you want to use. So that'll be fun. Anyway, that's gonna go on my needles soonish, whenever the skeins kind of finished and done. Maybe when I finish my metamorphic sweater. I don't anticipate that taking very long. Maybe I'll take a break when I finish that first skein of the yarn, and then I'll knit these, because this will take like 3 hours to knit this pair of fingerless mittens. People always ask me if it takes longer to spin or longer to knit, and I used to think it took longer to knit than spin, but then I realized that it doesn't now, because when you draft singles this thin, it takes a long time. Not even thinking of the finishing process, which obviously is a several day long process as well, because you know, you have to wash it, you have to dry it, you have to snap it, all sorts of stuff. So if you're not a spinner, I'm so sorry for all the spinning content. That's why I do it at the end, but hopefully you come to the dark side and join us. I resisted for many, many years, and that now I do it, and I don't regret that I started spinning. I love it. So I'm gonna go finish that spin. I'm still making my way through the Oscar nominees. This week I watched Everything Everywhere All at Once, which was nuts. I totally had no idea what that, like, how, like, kind of let's say magical it would be, mind-bending. I thought it was like a family drama. It is a family drama. I guess that at the heart of it, it is a family drama. That's the whole point. But I loved it. I loved it. Oh, that was really sweet. Anyway, what else did I watch? I watched The Fabelmans. Is that what it's called? I thought that was very sweet. Sad. The Fabelmans is sad, but it was really good. A couple of actors that very recognizable. Paul Dano is in it, as well as Seth Rogen. And it was serious, but very like real, deep. I thought it was sweet. And now I'm watching Top Gun Maverick. I did not actually watch the first Top Gun movie, so this is making me want to watch the first Top Gun, although it's definitely been spoiled by like something that has already been said a bunch of times. So, yeah. You can see my Ski the East sticker. This is my newest sticker. And my UMBC water bottle. Save the bees. It's on there for my mom. She's a beekeeper. So I'm gonna watch the rest of Top Gun today. How many else do I have to watch? I have to watch Triangle of Sadness, but I can't find out how to watch that because I don't know when it was released. Anyway, yeah, I don't know how I'm gonna watch that, but it's like, I think it's about people on, like rich people on a cruise ship that sinks or something. So that one I gotta figure out. And then Avatar, I'm not gonna watch. I said that already. I didn't watch the first Avatar. I have no interest in watching Avatar. No beef with anyone who does like Avatar. I just don't want to watch it because it's 3 hours of something I don't think I would understand, even though apparently it's very visually nice. Not really. I knit or spin while I'm watching, so I don't really watch that much. Anyway, Top Gun is as crazy as I'm going to get for my Oscar watching marathon. So I got to check out the rest of them because there's probably a couple more I still have to watch. But yeah, recommend The Fabelmans. That was really sweet movie. So for now, I think that's all. I'm gonna finish my spin. I'm gonna spend my day having vocal rest. Stop talking, Emma. Stop talking. Gotta do a bunch of cleaning and tidying, I think, today, just kind of get my house in order. Get my pattern released. It's done. I just have to put it on Ravelry, but you're watching this 3 days from me recording it, so it'll be up. Anyway, yeah, gotta finish doing my laundry. Today is my washing my sheets day, so those are probably done. I gotta put those back on my bed and clean up my room, which just means organizing my sweaters and bring my wheel back downstairs and stuff, because it's been up there for a week. And yeah, do a lot of knitting. Hopefully have a pretty chill day, because I gotta do church tomorrow. And yeah, thank you so much for watching. You can like and subscribe. Please buy my pattern on Ravelry. And yeah, this has been Tiny Desk Knitting with Emma. Bye.